Hi everyone, welcome back to Casual Fridays with Exec Ed. So today is our third episode of our special series on water and sustainability. This is done in collaboration with our research center, the Institute of Water Policy. So here we've asked today, it's a very special guest, the co-director of the Institute, Professor Ben Cashore. Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you? Nice to be here.
Okay, so let's go down to business. I would ask you the first question on the work that you've been doing, which is revolving around environmental problems and also climate change policy. So specifically, you have written pretty extensively on this rather vicious sounding term, which is called super wicked problems. And it's actually a term that was coined with three others in 2007 and subsequently in 2012 in a paper that you and the rest actually published in Policy Science. So the paper actually illustrates the application of this super wicked problem to the issue that we're facing right now, climate change. So I want to ask you, Ben, what is the super wicked problem and how vicious it is?
Yeah, so thank you. And it's important to note that in the policy world, before we came along, there was a term called wicked problems that Rittel and Weber had written a long time ago in the same journal, actually. And we said, it's a great article, but there's a certain class of problems that are even more difficult to address. So we called them super wicked problems, okay? And so the term's taken off, but behind that term, we say, are actually four key features that make them really difficult to address, okay? And our point is not that you can't address them, it's that you must think about the four features when addressing them, okay? So, first feature is that time is running out.
All right.
At some point, it's too late to go back to the policy process and seek resolution, okay? So, in the case of climate change, we know that any emission released anywhere in the world has the same effect, and that it sits in the atmosphere for over 300 years, okay? Which means that at some point, there's too much carbon in the atmosphere, and we get too warm, and then we have catastrophic tipping points that are no longer able to be resolved. So how do we do that? Scientists tell us we must stay within a 1.5 degree warming future to avoid the tipping point. And they also tell us we have only 10 years left to avoid that, okay? So time is running out. And that's not the case for all policy problems. Some problems you can go back to the policy process again and again to seek resolution, but not on these, okay? So these problems require some kind of immediate action, some kind of crisis event to really coalesce our efforts. That's the first feature. Okay? The second feature is that there's no central authority. There's no one place to go in the world where you can say, hey, what can we do? Do this, go do it. Because we live in a world of nation states. But this is a global problem. So if one country does something great, but the rest don't, the problem is not resolved. So no central authority requires we think carefully about how to diffuse support across countries without having a governing system that exists globally in that kind of way.
So you don't have a big brother?
No big brother, no equivalent of a earth government, okay? The United Nations is not that equivalent. It tries to do things, but it's not a governing system in the same way, okay? So, third key feature, and this is the awkward one, those who are causing the problem also want to solve the problem, okay? So most of us benefit from a high carbon economy. We fly to conferences, we're academics, right? Our economic development is usually owing to a high carbon economy. And so we benefit from this high carbon activity. And yet, all of us and almost all the governments in the world have said they want to maintain and get no higher than a 1.5 degree future. They want to limit our carbon effects because of the catastrophic ecological and economic effects that will occur in the future if we don't. Okay? So we've got these short-term economic benefits, but long-term economic and ecological costs. Okay? The battle, though, is with ourselves. So how do we handle an internal battle? Is very different from just having different interests duke it out for their policy preferences, okay? And that's a really important feature. The fourth key feature is that the current policies in place are inconsistent with the scientific evidence about the nature of the problem. So we are doing things, all kinds of things. We're all working hard to address the climate crisis. But so far, very few things are consistent with that 1.5 degree future. We call this an irrational policy response to the nature of the problem itself. Okay? And we say when those 4 features exist, as they do in climate change, they are super wicked and require certain ways of thinking about the policy process that are distinct and different than regular policy development, policy design approaches.